All right, good morning. The Committee on Parole is called to order. It is 9:05 a.m. Today is Tuesday, July 16th, 2024. My name is Cheryl Renatza, serving as chairman of today's parole panel. My colleagues on the panel this morning, seated to my left, Mr. Danny Byra, and seated to my right, Ms. Carolyn Stapleton. We are situated at DOC headquarters in Baton Rouge this morning, and I would like to have our staff here in Baton Rouge to introduce themselves for the record.
Francis Abbott.
And our first remote location this morning is at the State Police Barracks. Good morning. I'd like to have the staff at the barracks please introduce yourself.
Lisa Frazier with classification.
Captain Patrick Washington.
Jimmy VIDRINE.
All right. I want to thank the folks at the barracks for accommodating us. Yes, and Mr. VIDRINE, you're our first case this morning. So once again, would you introduce yourself? Tell us your name and DOC number.
My name is Jimmy Allen VIDRINE. DOC number is 94517.
All right, Mr. VIDRINE, let me let you know, acknowledge the folks we have here in support with us in Baton Rouge. We have your brother, Stephen, your sister, Charlotte Ward, and your mother, Shelby Artigo. Also by Zoom, we have the Parole Project, Mr. Myers. Let me explain to you how our process will work this morning, Mr. VIDRINE. I'm going to read some identifying information into the record. I'm going to ask you to verify that information. And then we're going to give you the floor. We're going to give you a few minutes to tell us why you think we should vote favorably for you today. Then we'll hear from the folks. We'll hear from the Parole Project and your sister, Ms. Ward, to get their input. We'll hear from Captain Washington. And then we'll start our parole interview process with you. Okay, ready? So that's a little different format, but that's how we'll work it today. So, Mr. VIDRINE, you're classified as a second felony offender, currently serving a 99-year sentence, sentenced in Evangeline Parish for a second-degree murder conviction. Your parole eligibility date was determined to be October 27, 2023. You do have a adjusted good time date, which is October 11, 2029. Does all that information sound correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And you were originally charged with a first-degree murder, and as part of a plea, you pled to second degree and received a life sentence. However, that sentence was commuted to the 99 years by Governor John Bell Edwards on that day, October 27, 2023. So then your new sentence became life with 99 years with immediate parole eligibility. Is that? All right, but Mr. VIDRINE, this is your opportunity. Tell us why you think we ought to vote for you today.
When I was a kid, my experiences in life became very negative. And I didn't respect authority, and I carried that into my adulthood. And after my crime and my incarceration, I wanted forgiveness for my crime, but I couldn't forgive myself. I needed to become someone that might be worthy of that forgiveness, and that's been my journey. I've been involved in many church organizations, many clubs. I did community services with them, and over the years, and I know my record will reflect this, I was changing. It didn't happen all of a sudden. And I know in the last 30 years, it's really been evident, and I'm still trying to become that person that can be forgiven for his actions.
All right. Thank you, sir. we'll hear, let me just first ask Captain Washington. Captain, is there anything you want to say about Mr. Vidrine before we hear from Ms. Sandy?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much, and I will do my due diligence to be good stewards of y'all's time. Thank y'all for having us this morning. I've known Mr. Jimmy for about 5 years now, and he said something that kind of stuck with me. He said his childhood experiences turned him into a negative person. Mr. Jimmy don't talk a whole lot. As evidence is when you ask him to speak, he doesn't, it's not his thing. But what is his thing is his actions. He's been at the same job here at State Police Barracks for 6 years and is irreplaceable. I am happy that he has this opportunity to come before you guys today and pray that it works out in his favor. He will be greatly missed. So I will speak in present tense and future tense. He will be greatly missed here at the State Police Barracks because he is a positive role model, a positive influence, an excellent employee. His supervision that I spoke to over the weekend about him being replaced, and I told him, I said, I can't replace him. I might be able to send somebody else down there to do the work, but I can't replace him. And I could not speak any highly of an individual than Mr. Jimmy. He is, I don't know who he was when he committed this crime over 40 years ago. I know who he is, the man he is today, and I'm excited for this future that's ahead of him. So thank y'all.
So Captain, what you mentioned his job and that he's irreplaceable. What is his job?
He works at our state police firing range with many duties, not only cutting grass, but he cleans the place, he keeps the facility up and going, moving equipment for them, taking care of every need that they have, basically, no matter what it is. He builds frames for the targets. He does anything they ask him to do, repairs around the buildings, whatever it is, he does it for them.
All right, thank you for that explanation.
Yes, ma'am.
Could we hear from Ms. Charlotte Ward, please? You want to step up to the podium, ma'am, so he can see you and then just tell us what you'd like us to know.
First, I'd like to thank y'all for this opportunity to come before y'all. And I believe, I know in my heart, that he's been rehabilitated. And we just wanted to come home. I just wanted to be home before we lose our mother. The other person only had 5 months with his mama when he got home. He only had 5 months with her before she died during the COVID. I want to see Jimmy have more than 5 months with mama. Just please, let him come home.
All right, any questions for Ms. Ward? All right, well, thank you, ma'am. We appreciate you being here today. Thank you. Mr. Myers with the Parole Project.
Good morning, Kerry Myers with Louisiana Parole Project. We're here to let this board know that we're in full support of Mr. Vidrine release today. We will offer Mr. Vidrine long-term housing for as long as he needs. We've discussed this with Mr. Vidrine. He does have support from family, but after 44 years, we've talked. He will stay with us as long as he feels the need and as long as we feel that he still needs our services. Mr. Vidrine has skills. He is certified as an electrical technician. He has small engine repair skills. He's very employable. Our employment enhancement program team will work to make sure he is employed. Mr. Vidrine's record does speak for itself. He hasn't had a disciplinary write-up in 17 years. He's been a trustee now for 25 years, uninterrupted. Mr. Vidrine, after 44 years, actually has a good time date in 2029. But this board has an opportunity today to send Mr. Vidrine home with conditions that this board deems appropriate. And we all know that discretionary parole, based on the supervision and the conditions, is much more effective than good time release. So we would ask this board to consider those factors, the support system that he has, his employability, his record and grant Mr. Vidrine his parole today.
Right, thank you. We appreciate the support of the parole. So, Mr. Vidrine, we'll start our parole interview. I'll take the lead because your case is assigned to me, and then my colleagues, if they have any questions, they'll chime in. So it was mentioned you've been incarcerated 44 years.
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
So that makes you, how old were you when you committed this crime?
I was 18 years old, man.
Okay. And I want you to, in the notes that I had, it says one the reasons that the pardon board voted favorably at your pardon hearing, one of them was that you accepted responsibility for the crime and your actions. So I was at that hearing. And so I know what you said, but my colleagues on this panel were not. So I would like for you to tell them why we wrote that down, you know, accepted responsibility for the crime. What was your part in this terrible crime?
My part in the crime, I was a participant in it, along with another offender. And I know that words can never describe the remorse that I have for my actions, man, and you can't change the past. You can only look forward to the future. And I hope, that the board, will take into consideration my record, and give me this opportunity. I know I can be
But I want you to be a little more specific, Mr. Vidrine. What was your role in the death of Mr. Gautreaux?
in the death of Mr. Gautreaux. I was the person, man, that made this man take these pills and drank this substance and gagged him and left him, and he died of a fixation.
And so you and your co-defendants, Patrick DeVille.
Yes, ma'am.
So this is tell me if what I read is correct. So Mr. Gautreaux was in his 50s, I believe. The two of you went in his home to rob him.
Yes, ma'am.
He was tied and bound. He was hit in the head with a blunt instrument and forced to take multiple pills, which were, I think, amphetamines and barbiturates. Then he was gagged, and as you mentioned, he was forced to drink something. And yes, the cause of death was asphyxiation because he aspirated on the pills. And the total value of what was taken from his home was $60. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
So tell us what led you to commit the crime. I mean, you mentioned, I think in the record, there's an indication there was some substance abuse. You started drinking early, at an early age at least. So tell us a little bit more. How did you end up in that spot to where you did this?
Yes, ma'am. Well, it goes back a little further back in my childhood. Now, I was 9 years old when I started stealing my dad's whiskey from the kitchen cabinet. And my mother and father separated and divorced when I was 10. When I was 11, I started doing drugs. And that was my life up to that point. I quit school and started working when I was 14. I kept a job. I didn't have a problem with working, but I had a problem with drugs and alcohol. And I know it's no excuse, but you're not sane. You're not in your right mind when you're under the influence, And those were my choices. The choices I made when I was very young. Those were my choices. They were wrong. And that's how I come to that point in my life.
Okay. So You do have some good programs under your belt. The captain mentioned your good conduct record, or Mr. Myers did, that you haven't had one in since over 20 years. Programs, tell us of the programs you've been able to participate in, which one was the most meaningful to you?
Which one was the most meaningful? I would have to say Alcoholics Anonymous, but that was more than just one that was meaningful. Anger management was another one. 100 hours of pre-release, and it was all really helpful, you know.
Did you ever
Yeah.
take some awareness classes?
I took a victims awareness class, man.
I don't think I saw that. I must have missed it. So if you could speak to Mr. Gotro's family, and you can't because you're prohibited by law to do that, what would you say to them?
I would ask them for their forgiveness, man. I would tell them, you know, how truly sorry I am for what I did. And just hope and pray, you know, that they would give me that forgiveness, you know.
Okay. Tell us about so you're a second offender. Your first offense was just a little over a year prior to the murder. And that was simple burglary and theft. So you were on probation at the time of this offense when this happened?
Yes, ma'am, that's true.
All right. What would be your transition plan? I know we mentioned the parole project. Somewhere in there, I saw there was a job opportunity for you in Central.
Yeah, my sister is the manager of Central Storage in Baton Rouge, and she filled out a form, and also a Bob's Electrical from my hometown, you know, fill out a form for me, and also John's Mechanics.
Which is also in Ville Platte.
Yes, ma'am.
So let me just, I'm going to defer to my colleagues in just a moment. I want you to know there is some strong, very strong opposition to an early release for you. You knew that. You were made aware of it at the pardon board hearing. I want to state it again for the record because it has not changed. The judge in the 13th Judicial District is opposed. The district attorney is opposed. The sheriff in Evangeline Parish is opposed. Chief of police in Ville Platte is opposed. And of course, we have statements from numerous members of the victim's family who are very strongly opposed to any early consideration for you. You need to be aware of it. There's not anything you can do to change that opposition, but you need to be aware of it. And I mentioned the community opposition because I have concerns about you going back to the same community where this happened.
Yeah, well, my sister wanted me to stay in Baton Rouge. She wanted me to work there with her, you know, and I haven't really made any commitment to that yet. You know, I was hoping, you know, that maybe I could get a job somewhere in Baton Rouge doing electrical work, you know.
Okay. Well, I'm going to defer to my colleagues. Mr. Bauer, any questions?
I have one question. What is your goal for 5 years from now? Where would you plan on being? What would you plan on be doing? What you made any goals?
Well, my main goal is to stay sober, sir. You know, if I'm released on parole, I'm gonna get a sponsor. You know, I'm gonna continue the meetings and continue. I'm in a good spot in my recovery, sir, and I'm gonna continue that. It's October would be 30 years of sobriety, sir, that I have, and I want to continue that life. I don't want to go back to the life I lived before, sir. Get a job, support myself. I want to help, you know, other people in their efforts to achieve sobriety, you know. I have a story, sir, you know, I mean, everybody does, you know. I think that mine could help somebody, you know, relating to them.
That was my only question.
I heard you just now say that you have a story, and you do, but I know when you were specifically asked about the crime just now, you hedged really what really actually happened that caused it to be so brutal. That y'all stuffed pills down this man's mouth, put a rag in it, tried to force him, was it pine sol y'all forced him to drink? What,
It was pine sol, man.
yeah. So you forced him to drink pine sol because he couldn't swallow the pills. You put a rag on his mouth and then you taped him. Am I correct?
Yes, ma'am.
When the autopsy found him and they gave an autopsy, he actually, he had to smother to death because you tied him up, and it was for $60.
Yes, ma'am.
So, I mean, your story to tell, I imagine you're just gonna leave that part out, because you did with us just now. You just kind of said, y'all killed a man, which you did, but the brutality of the crime is an issue that hurts my heart to read. And you're gonna be out in 2029 anyway. So everything you say here today will be something that will lead you forward in life. And I read the book Alcoholics Anonymous with Bill W. I saw the movie. The movie's great. I don't know if they show it in prison for y'all, but he actually has a documentary movie. And my name is Bill. So you're right that this is an ongoing process to fight alcoholism. You're very right about that. So I hope the parole project, of course, you won't be paroled if you make it in, if you get out in 2029, but it's an excellent program. So that's all I have to say.
All right. Well, I think that concludes our interview, Mr. Vidrine, and I think we are prepared to vote. I'll be voting first since your case was assigned to me. Mr. Vidrine, I saw you before the pardon board and I voted for you then. For all the reasons that I mentioned, you had good programs, a low risk score, you had a very favorable recommendation by the folks there at the barracks. You had a good conduct record and a good prison record. And frankly, your age and the length of incarceration. And I still stand by that decision. My vote today would be to grant you parole, but I would like you to first complete a victim awareness class, and then I would add special conditions. Of course, you go to the parole project transition plan. You report weekly to your probation officer for at least 60 days, perform community service hours, 6 hours a month, and attend 3 AA meetings a week.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, Mr. Byra.
Well, Mr. Vidrine, I do believe that probably 44 years has changed you, and I think you are a different guy than you were back then. However, the heinous nature of the crime, the manner of death, the extremely strong law enforcement opposition, the extremely strong victim opposition who is still having to deal with this, I'm gonna have to vote to deny you parole at this time.
Ms. Stapleton.
My vote is the same as Mr. Barra because of the brutality of the crime, victim opposition, law enforcement opposition. I think you have a good plan for your future, which is 5 years away. I hope you stick to that plan. But today I have to vote to deny.
All right, Mr. Vidrine, you got one favorable vote. The 2 votes were not in your favor, so your parole today's been denied. So your good time date is October 11th, 2029. You do have an opportunity to change that date a little bit if you involve yourself in programs. I would encourage you to do that. Good luck to you, sir.
Thank you, ma'am. Yeah.
All right. Good morning, Mr. Wunberger. Would you introduce yourself? Tell us your name and DOC number, please.
CREIGHTON WUNEBERGER, 196678.
Oh, pronounce your last name again?
WUNEBERGER.
Wunberger. I'm sorry, I mispronounced it. Okay, let me introduce the parole panel to you. Mr. Wunberger, my name is Cheryl Renatza. To my left, Mr. Danny Byron. To my right, Mrs. Carolyn Stapleton. We are your parole panel today. We have joining us by Zoom, we have Mr. Kerry Myers with the Parole Project, and Bahia, right? I'm sorry if I've mispronounced it. Whenever we call on you, I'd like you to introduce yourself so we can get the correct pronunciation. A mentor who will be speaking on your behalf. First, let me read some identifying information into the record. I'll ask you to verify that information. We'll hear from the captain there. Well, first we'll hear from you. We want you to tell us why you think we ought to vote for you today, vote favorably for you. Then we'll hear from the captain and we'll hear from those who want to speak on your behalf, and then we'll begin our parole interview with you. Okay, ready? So Mr. Wunberger, you're classified as a 4th felony offender. You're currently serving a 50-year sentence with parole eligibility. Your parole eligibility date is October 27th, 2023. You do not earn good time because you're not eligible, and you have a full term date, October 8th, 2051. Is that information correct?
Yes, ma'am.
And your sentence was originally, your sentence in Jefferson Parish, you were sentenced originally to 50 years without parole. And so in October of 2023, the Governor Edwards signed a commutation making you immediate parole eligible. Is that your understanding?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. So why don't you tell us, Mr. Wunberger, why you think we should vote favorably for you today?
I was a troubled child when I was young. I lost my father when I was 6. Over the years after that, my mom became alcoholic. So I had no father figure. I was pretty much on my own. 1988, I was 17 years old. My sister committed suicide. I went into a real dark place. I had nobody. And I turned to drugs and became a drug addict for many years. When I came to prison this time, I failed a drug test in Angola in 2003. Then I knew I had to make a change. 2004, the first class I took was sober group. I knew I had a problem. I knew if I could fix my drug problem, I could become a better person. I've never been arrested sober in my life. And through all the years at Angola, I started taking programs, becoming a better person. The person I was 23 years ago is not the same person sitting in front of you today. I'm going to continue to keep pushing forward. I was surrounded in Angola with chaos and drugs. I chose not to take that path. I chose to take a positive path and become a better person. And I've been doing that through my whole incarceration. No matter what the outcome is today, I'm going to continue to keep pushing forward. And I'm going to continue with the AA for my drugs. That's not something that just goes away overnight. That's something you have to deal with for the rest of your life. I have support for that, which Ms. Bahia is my AA supporter.
All right. Good job. Captain, what can you tell us about Mr. Wuneberger?
Berger's been with us for about 3.5 years, going on 4 years. Currently, he doesn't work on the compound, he works off compound. But speaking to the supervisors there, they say he's doing an excellent job for them. They're very happy with his work product. When he was here, he was one of our go-to guys in the carpentry shop. So he's got the work ethic to be successful once he gets out. And he sounds like he's got good support with this behavior. So I think he's on the right path.
Well, thank you. So, Ms. Bahia, right. We'd like to hear from you.
Thank you. It's an honor to be able to address you this morning. My name is pronounced, you did it correctly, ma'am. It's Bahia Wright. I am a certified employee assistance professional, labor assistance professional, a qualified substance abuse professional. I came to know Mr. Wuneberger as a volunteer at Angola with 12-step meetings about 8 years ago. I am not his only support system because he is surrounded by many members within the recovery community. And one thing I think that's certainly important to recognize, when an individual grows up in a situation like Mr. Wuneberger did, survival is a miracle. Turning to alcohol and drugs is a coping mechanism. And it's based on really what we learn is wrong thinking, right? To be able to survive, to feel those basic instincts of security and a social instinct. We think wrong, and picking up the alcohol or drugs brings some relief. Additionally, you know, the simple fact that his sister committed suicide, it is well known today that when a close member of your family commits suicide, you are a lot more likely to commit suicide. And the truth is that the use of the drugs is a slow way to commit suicide. So when I first met him, he was a very quiet, reserved, and he has shown the initiative to look at his thinking, look to where it was wrong, right? Because wrong thinking leads to a wrong belief system, like this is going to fix. So this is a design for living for him. It is continued efforts to take a look at his thinking that drives any kind of behavior. And he's been very successful so far. And like I said, he has a great support system of many men in the New Orleans or Baton Rouge area. And the Parole Project is such a wonderful program. He will be successful and a contributing member of society. I believe that with all my heart, based on my experience of over 39 years. Thank you for the opportunity to address you.
We appreciate you being here this morning. And Parole Project, Mr. Myers.
Again, hi, good morning. Kerry Myers with Louisiana Parole Project. We're going to support Mr. Wuneberger on a long-term basis. Providing housing and reentry support, mentorship, reentry programming. Once he completes the initial phase, our employment enhancement program staff will work diligently to find him employment. He is skilled. He should be easily employable. He'll get an assessment with our social worker. We already know that he's committed to his sobriety, but that's part of the program. He'll still get the assessment, and I'm sure that what he's doing will also match what our social worker will probably find in the assessment through the support system But I have no doubt that he'll comply with any recommendations our social worker makes. Mr. Wunneberger's record has shown he's participated in Malachi Dad's, Dale Carnegie Toastmasters. He was the vice president of the rodeo committee. He's been in a lot of trusted positions. He's currently in a very trusted position that only a few get to do. We believe Mr. Wunneberger has his, as Ms. Wright said, his right way of thinking. And we believe he'll be very successful. So we just asked this board to grant his parole today, and Parole Project will be there to support him.
Mr. Barra has some questions of you, Mr. Myers.
Yeah,
Yes.
Mr. Myers, you said he would be there with y'all long term. What would long term be? What was the plan for how many months with him?
So he will be with us in our housing as long as he needs to be in our housing. Our goal is eventually to provide someone with the tools to become self-sufficient. At some point, whether it be 6 months or a year, we'll work towards getting him his own permanent housing once he is financially and mentally self-sufficient. And we'll continue to he'll be in our orbit. We'll continue to support him with mentorship. Not only do we have transitional housing, we have a number of post-transitional properties. And we also have connections with many landlords in the area. So once he becomes financially self-sufficient, he'll be with us while he can work and save his money through the programming. And when he's ready and we feel he's ready, we'll help him transition to his own permanent living solution.
But it would be a minimum of 6 months before he gets to that point.
I would say so, yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Mr. Myers. Mr. Wunneberger, your case this morning has been assigned to Mr. Barra, so he's going to start the interview process.
That's not.
Mr. Wunneberger, just to put a few pieces of information onto the record, that the crime was committed when you went into a convenience store and held a knife and demanded against the cashier's wife and demanded him open the register and give you money. That's correct?
Yes, sir.
Right. And the record shows that you have a warrant out of Texas for probation violations down there. Are you aware of that?
That was supposed to be taken care of. When I got discharged here, my mom called and they were supposed to do away with it. And when I went on the clemency board, they brought it up and they said it was a nonviolent warrant.
Okay, well, what I'm seeing at this point is that they're not gonna extradite you back from here to face it. But if you ever go back in that area and get arrested, they are gonna keep you.
Just
So
I'll try to take care of that when I get out, if I
Well,
get out.
just be aware of that if you go around back wherever that part of Texas that is and they arrest you for anything, they're gonna keep you.
Yes, sir.
Record also reflects that you've been arrested 10 times for 22 offenses. You also haven't had any write-ups since 2014. You've also completed a minimum of 7 major inmate programs. What have you learned in jail this time? What have you learned? What's the most valuable lesson you think you learned?
Most valuable lesson I learned is my addiction.
Your addiction?
Yes, sir. I've never been in trouble sober. So I know if I stay on the path I'm on now, I won't repeat again. And I'm going to continue to work on my addiction for the rest of my life.
Right. All right. That's what I think. That's all I needed to hear. Next.
Sir.
Mr. Wunneberger, I've listened to what my colleagues have said, and they pretty well covered everything on this. I mean, you have DA opposition and then the sheriff's opposition for your release. And the lady mentioned that it was your sister committing suicide that it caused you to take a spiral. where is that in your life right now as far as your thinking?
I'm good with it now. It took me some years to understand was whatever she was going through to cause her to do it. She was the only thing I had left. Now, my dad passed away when I was 6. My mother passed away in 2015. So I really don't have no immediate family. I have a couple cousins in Texas, but through the programs that I took, it helped me understand how to deal with certain problems besides using drugs. There's other ways to do it, of picking up the phone and calling somebody or asking somebody to sit down and listen to you.
Yeah, in order to have that, you're gonna have to build a network around yourself, like you were talking about. Alcoholics Anonymous, maybe you got involved in a church group somewhere where you'll have somebody that you can call.
Yes, ma'am.
Otherwise, it looks like you would be alone based upon what you were saying, which that's not a good thing. Family support is always important, but not everybody has that. So, like, fall in with that. Okay, that was my only question.
Okay, well, Mr. Wunderberger, I think that the panel is prepared to vote. I start with Byron.
I think you're doing good over there. Today I'm gonna vote to grant you parole due to your behavior while you're in prison. The fact that there's no victim opposition, that you had a solid reentry plan with the parole project. But I'm gonna add a condition that you stay at least 6 months with the parole project, and that term must include intensive substance abuse evaluation. And I just want to let you know, the answer that said for life was the right answer, because you're gonna have a long parole. And if you come back over here and the parole officer says you're drinking, you're flunking alcohol tests, you're not doing substance abuse, don't come over here and tell us you figured out what's happening again, because you're gonna be revoked.
Yes, sir.
Got it?
Thank you.
Good luck.
Ms. Stapleton?
Nothing more to be said. I agree with Mr. Barrow. So yes, I'll grant with the same conditions and everything he said, is ditto for me.
All right, Mr. Wunderberger, and I do agree. You have a favorable recommendation there by the captain. You have a low risk score. You have an outstanding prison record with good conduct and a solid transition plan with support. So my vote is to grant with the same special conditions laid out by Mr. Byron. Good luck to you, sir.
Thank you.
Captain, I think that concludes our business at your facility. We're going to sign off at 9:55. Thank you so much.
Thank you all.
Still got a music like it on. You got it muted over there? I mean, 'cause when I,
All right, good morning. Committee on Parole is reconvening. We are now at Dixon Correctional Institute. It is Tuesday, July 16, 2024, and it is 10:05 a.m. My name is Cheryl Renatza, serving as chairman of today's parole panel, and my colleagues on the panel this morning, to my left is Mr. Danny Byra, and to my right is Mrs. Carolyn Stapleton. So we are at Dixon Correctional Institute. Warden, would you and your staff introduce yourself for the record?
Hey, good morning, Ms. Renata. How you doing? Deputy Warden Turner, Keith Turner.
2024, and it is. I can hear me. You must have some volume. I'm just serving as chairman of today's parole panel.
Okay, we working on it. Give us 1 second.
Danny Byra, and to my right is Mrs. Carolyn Stapleton.
Somebody watching on YouTube over
All
there.
right, I think we got it correct.
All right, thank you.
Good
And
morning.
we have for us Mr. Coulon.
Yes, ma'am.
Would you introduce yourself? Tell us your name and your DOC number.
Robert Coulon, 454-333, ma'am.
All right, Mr. Coulon, you heard the introduction, so we're just going to dive right in. I'm going to read some identifying information, ask you to confirm it, and then we're going to give you an opportunity to tell this panel why you think we should grant you parole.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
then after we finish with that, we'll hear from Warden Turner, and then we'll start our interview process with you, and then we'll take a vote.
Okay.
All right, so Mr. Coulon, you are classified as a 5th felony offender, currently serving a 10-year sentence as a habitual offender, sentenced in 2018, possession of a firearm by a convicted felon and operation of a vehicle while intoxicated, 4th offense.
Yes,
Your parole eligibility date was June 4th, 2021, and you have an adjusted good time date, which is December 12th, 2026. Is that all correct?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So take a moment, please, Mr. Coulon, and tell us why you think we should vote for you today.
Well, I spent a lot of time working on myself here at DCI, NAA, AA, and living in balance. And also, I've completed my degree, my associate's degree, and I'm really close to my bachelor's degree, communications. I'd like to take that, go out into society, try and be a productive member.
All right. Thank you, sir. Congratulations on your educational achievements.
Thank
Your
you, ma'am.
case is assigned to Mrs. Stapleton. Would you answer her question?
Good morning, Mr. Coulon.
Morning.
I'm very impressed that you are getting your bachelor's degree.
Thank you, ma'am.
And you're a young man.
Yes, ma'am.
You're clearly an alcoholic. I
Yes,
don't know if you admitted that to yourself or not, but you
I
are.
have. Yes, ma'am.
There is a program called Steve Hoyle. Have you checked into that to see maybe if you could go there and get help there?
No,
That's
ma'am.
an excellent program. I would love it if you would try and see if you could go there for yourself so that when you do get out, because you are, what have you had, 5 DWIs or 4?
4.
4. Have you had other arrests that they didn't do anything with?
No, ma'am.
4 DWIs.
Yeah.
So far, 4 possibilities of murdering another person in your vehicle.
Yes, ma'am.
That makes you, for me, a danger to society. Even the first would be bad enough, but 4. And then it said on the last one, this is what the arrest report had in there. Strong, you didn't stop for law enforcement. Sure, you didn't stop because you knew you were going to get arrested, go back to jail. You didn't stop for law enforcement. You were running off the roadway, so they put a bolo out on you to be on the lookout for your vehicle. So regular citizens saw you. So at any point you could have hit someone and killed them. When they did get to you, you were obviously very impaired. Your speech was slurred, you were dazed and confused by the officer's presence. And then he saw the 12-gauge shotgun in plain view between 2 front seats. Why did you have the shotgun? You knew you were a convicted felon.
Yeah, I don't even remember putting it in there, to be honest with you.
Right. So there's my problem. there's my problem. What, we have law enforcement opposition. And also, what you did is a danger to society at any time you can kill somebody. So that's my, other than you're clearly obvious, you can go to Steve Paul, try to get well on this, because I know that it is an addiction and it is a lifelong addiction.
Yes, ma'am.
And you're a fifth offender class. That's really bad.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm gonna pass it along to whoever else would like to speak.
Warden Turner, is there anything you want to add?
Yes, ma'am. Robert's been a mild offender since we've had him here. He's a level 1 trustee. He's one of our pride members, and he's also completed his associate's degree, like he said earlier, and he's working on his bachelor's. He understands that, he does have a problem with alcohol, and I think it'll be beneficial for him if he was able to get in a program like Steve Hall, prior to you guys, granted, if that's what you guys are gonna do. But either way, I think it'll be beneficial for him to enroll in that and get in that prior to his release, because that would definitely help him once upon his release.
Mr. Coulon, our record shows that you have 5 DWI arrests. So one of them, obviously, I don't know what happened to it, but there are 5, not 4. How many times have you been arrested for possession of drugs? Ballpark.
I think just once. I believe just once for marijuana.
So the DWIs were alcohol related,
Yes,
or were you also under the influence of anything else?
No, ma'am. I think one of the DUIs that you're seeing is probably the underage.
Maybe so. It counts.
Okay.
All right. You got anything?
Either you had a blackout or you're having one right now,
No,
or
sir.
really long regarding your arrest. You've had, I'm looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 arrests for drugs and things like that wasn't prosecuted. And then I'm looking at 1, 2, 3 that were prosecuted that you pled guilty to. So that's a far cry from 1.
I think all of it was at one time with different possession counts, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm not gonna really argue the point with you, but pled guilty on 22405, the distribution of marijuana. 3 counts. One of them was a second offense, which you got a hard labor sentence for. Pled guilty again to possession of marijuana, second offense on 11/29/10. And you had another one, so that was 2 different conviction times right there when you were convicted, and then you had on 7/1/07 marijuana possession, now pros. There's a few more than what you remember. I just want to let you know in case anybody asks you that question.
Yeah.
I don't have any questions for him.
All right. I think, Mr. Coulon, we are prepared to vote. Mrs. Stapleton will be voting first.
Well, I'm gonna vote to deny you based upon your extensive criminal history and the fact that I feel like you're a danger to society as things stand right now. I hope you get better. I hope you go to Steve Boyle. And you do have law enforcement opposition. So based upon like I said, your extensive criminal history, you have a history of revocations where you were put on that. So and you have a high risk score. So I vote to deny.
Mr. Byron.
I'm gonna concur with Ms. Stapleton and encourage you to get into Steve Hall or something similar before you reapply with us.
Yeah, Mr. Coulon, I'm glad that you're able to pursue your education. That's probably an opportunity you wouldn't have had but for being where you're at. So keep working on that. I agree with Warden Turner. I'm glad you're doing well there. You do have a moderate risk score, and I concur with my colleagues that it would be very beneficial to you in your future if you could be enrolled in the Steve Hall program. So we're putting that on you. You investigate that, you write, you ask, try to get enrolled in that program. I concur with my colleagues based on everything they've said. My vote today is to deny your parole. But
Okay.
you have the opportunity. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, good morning, Mr. Nixon.
Yes, ma'am. Good morning.
Would you introduce yourself? Tell us your name and DOC number.
TAVIN Nixon, 563-579.
Mr. Nixon, my name is Cheryl Renatza. Mr. Danny Barra is seated to my left, and Mrs. Carolyn Stapleton is seated to my right.
Yes, ma'am.
We are your parole panel today, and I'm gonna let me read some identifying information into the record, and we'll get started. Mr. TAVIN Nixon, you're classified as a 5th felony offender. You currently serve a 15-year sentence. You were sentenced in Jefferson Davis Parish in 2021, possession with intent to distribute heroin. Parole eligibility date is later this year, November 26th. You have a good time date, which is June 20th, 2025. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
So we'll start out, Mr. Nixon, we would like for you to tell us why you believe we ought to vote for you today.
Yes, ma'am. I'm ready, miss, like all other times that I've been convicted, like I never did like a long time period of time. Like this is the longest time I ever done. Like, and I thank, for being here at DCI, because I learned a lot, getting up job wise, programs, I learned a lot, and I'm just ready to get home and to my little boy, miss. Like before this, like, and on these charges, I ended up burning out, and in the process of that, I had a little boy, like, I left, he was like 7 months. And every time when I do talk to him and I talk with him on the phone, like, he think this is my house. Like, he said, I want to come to your house. I'm just so ready to miss, like my mind is different now. I don't have a desire for the streets no more. Like, my little boy is the main concern. I'm just ready, miss.
All right. Well, we will start our parole interview process, and Mrs. Stapleton will take the lead. Your case has been assigned to her.
Yes, ma'am.
Morning, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
I heard you say that the other time, well, this is the longest time you've ever been in jail. I mean, how long do you serve right now?
I've been locked up on 3 years. 3 years, miss.
Yeah, I see where you had some other convictions, all of them for drugs.
Yes, ma'am.
And 3 years, supervised probation, but possession of cocaine, possession of crack cocaine. Now it was a major drug bust.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So you got worse each time.
Yes, ma'am.
So which finds us here today. I see while you're in there, you've taken lots of programs.
Oh, yes, ma'am.
That's really good that, you've used your time well. But possession with intent to distribute heroin.
Yes,
How
ma'am.
much heroin did they find on you? How much heroin did they say you had?
It was like supposed to be 2 ounces. 2 ounces. They had said it's supposed to be 2 ounces, miss.
2 ounces.
Yes, ma'am.
And hydrocodone.
Yes, ma'am.
So, and it said that all of this stuff that it was intended to sell, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So you got victims outside that you leave
Yes,
on
ma'am.
all of this.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
you get 3 years, you do it. You get 3 years, you do it. Some of them's been revoked and you had to serve time. So now you're saying that you want another 3 years and out. Well, I'm going to tell you, you got opposition, you know that.
Yes, ma'am.
But a chief of police wrote in, Danny Simmons, and this is what he said. He needs to serve the majority of his time. Why give him 15 years and let him out in 3?
Yes, ma'am.
I can't answer that question because you got him let out in 3 on all the other cases and then you just did it again.
Yes,
So I'm
ma'am.
going to ask it to my next board member.
Yes, ma'am.
You got the 15 years in a plea deal where they agreed not to multi-bill you on the other charges. Is that how you got the 15 years?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so what kind of work do you do beside or before or during, you had any kind of regular jobs besides selling drugs?
Yes, sir. Before I come to jail, I was working at a construction company, Kane's Construction. We was working in Omaha, Nebraska, and we was doing roofing work. You know, I was working. I had a job before I come to jail.
Do you have anything lined up if we let you go?
Oh, yes, sir. I'm my mother-in-law, she got me lined up for total safety that's in Broussard, Louisiana. It's dealing with plants and stuff, and she got everything lined up for me. She just, you know, they wait for me. She like a boss. She a safety conductor. So she told me she can give me a job with her at Total Safety that's in Broussard, Louisiana, sir.
And you got your GED yet?
No, sir. I tried. I've been in GED since 21. I be trying to get it, but I got a learning disability. Like when I was in school, I was in resource. So like I when I take the test, I be down like this. I gotta bring this one up, and when I bring that one up, I go down in the other one. So it's like it's balancing, you know, it be balancing back and forth. I've been trying so hard to get there.
And then when it comes to inmate infractions, I see in 2023, you had the last one with unauthorized area and aggravated disobedience. What happened for that?
I was in the hobby shop talking with an officer. Like I'm talking with him and asking him something about, you know, a situation, and I didn't realize that, you know, I was violating any DOC policies, like, cause I went in the hobby shop with him. Like, and I didn't know that he was writing me up. Like I didn't know nothing about the word write up until like the next day when they had it on the call out thing for CB court. And that's when I found out that it was for authorized interest and aggravated disobedience. And I was in the hobby shop with him.
Warden, can you shed any light on that violation? Do you have anything about that?
I asked him about that earlier, and I read the report, and the report that I read was that he was in there, he shouldn't have been in there, and he was told to leave, and he refused to leave. That's what's on the report.
Two different sides of that story.
Yeah, I'm not no trouble inmate, sir.
Okay. That's all the questions I had.
I just have one question, Mr. Nixon. I see, so you went over to West Feliciana. It looks like maybe to a work release facility in January of this year, did you?
Yes, ma'am. I went for 3 days.
Why only 3 days?
They sent me back because of my medicine. They got me on some Jordan medicine. And when I went over there, they told me it was too high for me to for them to pay for it. And it was like the job that they was gonna give me at the time, I wasn't gonna be able to pay for me being over there and the medicine. So they sent me back to DCI to see if I could get off the medicine, like if I needed the medicine, but it never like
Are you still on medicine?
no, like about a month ago, the nurse, she took me off of it. She took me off the medicine. It's Jardian. She had took me off of the medicine, but
What is it?
Jardian.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
So you don't take it anymore.
No, ma'am.
And so your health condition is under management, managed well without it?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Warden Turner, is there anything else you want to tell us about Mr. Nixon?
Mr. Nixon, he's done some great things since his incarceration. He's completed multiple programming classes. He's in GED. I would like to see him complete that. I think that would be beneficial to him prior to his release. He's also on the wait list for Drug Dealers Anonymous. I think it'll be beneficial for him to complete that also. And a victims impact class would also be beneficial, in my opinion. He needs to know how his crimes have affected the people that he was dealing with and also his community.
Right,
But he is a level 2 trustee and a pride member.
all right, thank you. We appreciate it. All right, we are prepared to vote. Mr. Nixon, Mrs. Stapleton will be voting first.
Mr. Nixon, today I'm gonna deny your request And it's based upon law enforcement opposition. You've only served 3 of 15 years, which is a plea deal, so that was reduced to begin with. And in the past, you weren't successful always on your revocations and your extensive criminal history and what it is about. Just like I just said, the dealing drugs to other people. So you leave a lot of victims in your wake. And I agree with what the warden said. You know, I'd love to see you, I didn't even know there was such thing as Drug Dealers Anonymous. Do y'all have it at y'all's facility, sir?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, you need to get in that.
Yes, ma'am.
And victim impact, you need to do that. Those are 2 excellent suggestions. And they're nothing but happy. I deny you, but I want you to go forward and do well.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Mr. Barra?
I'm gonna vote with, concur with Ms. Stapleton. There's a lot of law enforcement opposition due to the amount of drugs. But be encouraged, take your classes and on the right road, because you're gonna be out of here in less than a year without the parole board doing anything.
Oh, yes, sir.
If I was you, I'd try to take as many classes as you can to where you'd be good to go when you get out. You are gonna get out next year shortly.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Nixon, it's glad to hear, I'm glad to see that you've taken advantage of the opportunities you've been given. You've got some really good programs under your belt. I agree with the warden. He's pointed out some that would be really beneficial to you. You know, for us, it's not about getting out of jail. It's about you staying. You're a 5th offender. You come back to jail, you're looking at a lot of time, more than 3 years.
Yes, ma'am.
More than 15 years, likely. And I don't think you were really truthful with us about the write-up, because I believe that's the one where you lost some good time. Didn't you lose 2 days of good time on that write-up? So that tells me it's a very serious infraction.
Yes, ma'am.
So based on everything that's been said and all the reasons, you know, the plea agreement and all that, and the need for some additional programs so you'll be successful, my vote today is to deny your parole. The best of luck to you, sir. Good luck, Mr. Nixon.
Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
All right, good luck, my man.
All right, good morning, Mr. Solomon.
Morning.
Introduce yourself, sir. Tell us your name and DOC number.
My name is Walter Solomon, DOC number 293-659.
Yes, sir. Let me introduce the parole panel to you and your guests. My name is Cheryl Renatza. Seated to my left is Mr. Danny Barra, and to my right is Ms. Carolyn Stapleton. I want to acknowledge that you have some folks there with you at DCI, your fiance, Ms. Janice Lewis,
Yes, ma'am.
brother, Ms. Deborah Solomon, and your sister, LaTanya Solomon.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, Zoom is LaToya Lewis, your goddaughter. Is that right?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So, Mr. Solomon, I'm going to read some identifying information into the record, and then we want to hear from you. We want you to tell us why you think we should vote in your favor today. Then we'll hear from the warden and the folks who've indicated they want to speak on your behalf, and then we'll start our parole interview with you after that. All right, ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Solomon, you're classified as a fourth felony offender, sentenced in Orleans Parish, October of 2010, multiple counts for distribution of heroin, possession with intent to distribute heroin, possession with intent to distribute cocaine, possession with intent to distribute marijuana, distribution of cocaine, and another count of distribution of cocaine. You had another sentencing date earlier in 2008 for possession of cocaine. You have a parole eligibility date, August 23rd, 2020, so that's in the past. And you have a mandatory release date, good time release date in August of 2058. Is that information correct?
I believe so. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, what you got, a fly or something flying around?
Yeah, it is.
Okay. All right. Mr. Solomon, take a moment, and if you would, based on all the information I just read and your time there at DCI, tell us why you think we should vote in your favor.
Well, first, I'd like to thank the parole panel for giving me this opportunity. I just want to say, before I came to prison, I was a horrible person. I sold drugs. I used drugs. I didn't care about anything but what I was doing. You know what I'm saying? And when I came to prison, I realized that I harmed and hurt a lot of people, and I needed to get myself together and try to better myself and get back home to my family. So I made a decision to get into every program here at DCI, and I'm proud to say that I did most. I've completed most. In addition to that, since I've been here, I received my high set. I'm currently on the waiting list to start Ashland University for business. And as I wait, I'm in this computer program called IC3 that I'm doing really well in. And let me say this, it wasn't an easy transition for me. Yes, I've hit a few bumps in the road for not being perfect. But for the most part, I've stood on my task. And if it's not a problem, I'd like to take this opportunity to apologize to my family members that's here, and I have some that's watching by way of Zoom and YouTube. I just want to say that I deeply apologize for being the person that I was before I came to prison. I was selfish, I was foolish, I was in my own way. I knew I wasn't the best son. I wasn't the best brother. I wasn't the best father. I wasn't the best in my relationship. But through these programs, I've formed and shaped myself into a better person, and I just want to deeply apologize for being a person who I once was. And I can assure you that I'm not that same person anymore. And I'm just hoping for the opportunity to get out and to show the same love and support that you all been showing me since I've been here. So I'm just
Well said. Well said. Martin, is there anything you want to add about, Mr.
Well,
Saul?
I've been knowing Solomon for a long time now. He's a good offender, inmate. Sometime he gets in his own way, but he's never been a problem towards security. He recently earned his GED here in May. He has a lot of drug convictions, and I think victim's impact would be beneficial to him. I was speaking to him about that earlier, so I think that's something we're definitely going to get him enrolled in. He's currently enrolled in IC3, so he's done some good things since he's been here.
All right, well, let's first hear, we'd like to hear from Miss Latoya Lewis. Looks like she's joined us from her job.
Hello,
Yes, now we can hear you.
good morning. I am Latoya Lewis. It's awkward to be from this standpoint. I've always visited when I'm able to visit, but on behalf of my mom in the room and the rest of the family and the parole board, as you can see, I stand at a different angle as well, so I can relate to the law enforcement side, and I can relate to having a family member incarcerated as well, and understand the procedures that takes place for incarcerated and going back into society. With that being said, knowing him pretty much my whole life, I would love to see him get that opportunity because I've watched the transition as a child with who he was and now who he is, and understanding how the community affects us all. There's a lot of what we call temptation in the struggle of society when you have no other choice to just make ends meet. But knowing that he understands now you have this child in this profession is not going to be tolerated, and we stand at a different level of expectation, and I'm willing to walk with him on that road. So if he is granted that opportunity to return home, he will have a job with my business outside of law enforcement, what is an event planning service. I coordinate weddings, decorate, all of that good stuff, the good side of life. So I'm willing to get him started on the road because I'm tired of lifting tables and chairs and all of that without the manpower. So I need that manpower. But he has a lot of support here. My husband is an officer, my brother is an officer, and we're gonna hold them to a different level of expectation this go round. We were kids then, we are adults now, and give us that opportunity, give him that opportunity, get him back on the road, and you will not see him again.
Well, thank you for joining us today, and thank you for your service in law enforcement.
Yes, ma'am.
Question for you, Ms. Bauer.
That wedding
Yes,
planning,
sir.
would that be a full-time job for him or a part-time job for him?
It would be a full-time job for him because I can't carry it full-time. I juggle it along with 3 other event planners that assist me because of my full-time position in law enforcement, which I've been in 17 years now. So it functions a lot with my mom assisting throughout the week. I can't hear you.
That's okay. We were wondering what parish you work for.
I work for Orleans Parish. I am, yes, ma'am. I'm the mounting instructor also for Orleans Parish Sheriff's Office.
We didn't recognize the uniform, so we were trying to guess where you're from. Yeah. Thank you again for your service.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Miss Janice Lewis, fiance. Go ahead, ma'am.
Good morning.
Morning. Go ahead.
Hi, I just want to say on behalf of Walter Solomon, as my daughter said as well, back then, the person that he was today, he's a different, totally different, man. And I would love to see him granted to have this opportunity to come home because as my daughter said, we have a job waiting on him, you know, so.
All right, well, glad you're here today in support. We appreciate hearing from you.
And thank y'all.
And Ms. Deborah Solomon?
Okay, I'm Deborah Solomon, Walter's mother. And I believe that my son has really changed. I talk to him often. We have these long conversations. But I'm really want to say that whatever this decision be today, that I'm here to support him in always, any way that I can. I'm here to support him either way. Anything goes. And that's all I have to say.
All right, well, thank you, ma'am, for joining us today. We appreciate it. All right, Walter, we're going to start our interview with you. I'm going to take the lead because your case has been assigned to me and I got some pretty tough questions for you. So hold on to your seat. You know, first of all, I want to say when you were speaking to us about what you've accomplished and why you think we ought to vote for you, I think you spoke very well. You're pretty articulate. Now, imagine if you'd have focused that kind of energy and before you came to jail, where you would be. You know, have you ever had any thought?
Oh, yes, I have. I mean, my family and people that know me, you know, I wouldn't have been, to be honest with you, I wouldn't have been able to accomplish the things that I've accomplished. And plus I came here. This was, you know, shamefully to say, this was good for me. You know, this was exactly what I needed.
Do you believe prison saved your life?
Yes, I can pretty much say, I mean, because like I said, I mean, I was a horrible person. I wasn't, you know, I was all over the place. I couldn't keep still. I was, you know, just being honest, you know, and I know that I am not that. I have no desire to turn back into that life. You know,
So have you given any thought, you know, you told us you know, you were somebody, when you look back, you're not proud of that person, who that person was. Why were you that person?
I have no idea. I mean, I just was all over the place, ma'am. I mean, I have no, I mean, I can't make any excuses. I just, like I said, I sold drugs, I used drugs. I mean, I just was.
Okay, let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. How old were you when you first started using drugs?
I'm sorry?
How old were you when you first started using drugs?
I was 16 years old.
And why did you do that? Why did you start? Just because?
I mean, yeah, I mean, my around friends and you know, started off, you know, marijuana and smoking and it just led to just from there.
You followed the crowd.
Yeah, basically, yes.
What grade did you complete in school?
8th grade.
8th grade. Why'd you quit?
I went to selling drugs and I just was all over the place. I wasn't. I mean, I sold drugs, used, and just was following the crowd and you know, dropped out. And I just, like I said, you know, I just was all over the place. I didn't care about anything but selling drugs and making money at that point. You know, in school was definitely out of the picture for me. I had nothing in my mind about school.
Mr. Solomon, what'd you do with all that money?
just blew it, just blew it as fast as I made it. It was quicker. I just spent it, on basically nothing.
So I noticed that you,
Wasted my life.
you took some, substance abuse education classes. What did you learn about addiction?
Well, I learned a lot about the harmful effects of what drugs do. I didn't know anything about it being a mind altering substance. It was the first time when I came to prison, I heard that term of mind altering substance and the harmful effects it does to the body and things like that. I mean, it's just a lot.
What about addiction to money?
I'm
Were
sorry.
you addicted to the money?
Yes. That
You ever
and
did that? Have you ever thought about that?
I'm sorry.
You ever thought about that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, being here, I mean, yes, I have. It was a waste. I just wasted my life.
All right, so I want to talk about a little bit. You were originally charged with second-degree murder, right?
Yes, ma'am.
And can you tell us why you were charged with second-degree murder?
I was charged with that because a friend of mine had overdosed on some drugs and I was with her, and I got that charge, but that wasn't, as the record should reflect that I wasn't guilty of anything dealing with that. I didn't have, that wasn't my fault or anything like that.
Well, what I got from the record was you were implicated in her death, Ms. Schmidt, and all the heroin, you supplied her with heroin, was not the direct cause of her death. It was a contributing factor.
Yeah, but that wasn't the case, which is why I wasn't charged with the crime.
Did you make a plea agreement?
No, I
You
didn't make
didn't?
a plea agreement. They ended up dropping it, null prost or whatever. You know what I'm saying? I didn't, it showed that I didn't, I wasn't guilty of the charge.
Right.
Which-
What I'm showing that you did, it was null pros because you agreed to plead guilty to the drug charges,
Yes.
agreed to the 50-year
To,
sentence.
Yeah, to the drug charges. I wasn't, it didn't have anything to do with the.
I think
to
my
my-
understanding, your understanding is different.
Yeah, it must be, because to my understanding, the charges was dropped. Now, why? I honestly don't have, I just thought that it was because I wasn't, which I wasn't. It didn't have anything, her death didn't have anything to do with what I was charged with. I was charged with.
Did it have anything to do with the fact that you gave her drugs?
No, no, I didn't give her drugs. If it would have been a thing with me giving her drugs, I think I would have been found guilty or charged with that.
Mr. Solomon, the record says that you thought you gave her cocaine, but it was actually heroin. You got to do some soul searching on that, sir. I do see that you appealed your sentence. You were in and out of court in 2011. And your appeal, you wanted to withdraw your guilty plea for whatever reason. But so are you guilty of the crime you're in jail for?
Yes, I'm guilty for the selling the drugs, and I think the reason why the guilty plea was it was because of the misunderstanding with the judge. What was my understanding of what I was being charged with, or I think it was, if I remember correctly, that I pleaded yes to being under a certain act, which was the 572.
We're gonna move on. We'll move on. I want to congratulate you on getting your GED, and I'm glad that you're pursuing other education. How long you been in jail? Let's see, you've been in jail 15 years?
Yeah, nearly 15, almost 15 years, yeah.
So you've served 15 years of the 50-year sentence. And let me just for the record say this, that it says 14 months later, the coroner's office determined or made the opinion that Schmidt died as a result of alcohol and Valium ingestion, primarily, and that the heroin provided by you, Mr. Solomon, was not the direct cause of death.
Right, so
All right. Well, I want to get that record. That's straight. But you told me you didn't give her any drug.
right.
So, but you did.
I don't know why it's I did, and I did.
All right.
It's saying that
You have a good conduct record. You have 16 write-ups in 15 years. That's mediocre. Last one was in 2023 for aggravated disobedience. What was that about?
I was doing a project Christmas, the door decorating. It wasn't Christmas. It was a door decorating contest, and I had some paint on the floor, and it wasn't a good morning for me. They had some paint on the floor, and I had some chemicals, and the sarge came by, and she yelled at me for wanting the chemicals, and I try to justify, man, I'm not going to make any excuse, ma'am. I try to justify the reason why I had it instead of complying, and I realized that that was a bad decision on my part, and I took responsibility for that, and I served my disciplinary time and just moved on from it. But I wish I would have complied. I should have just complied and gave her
What was the penalty for that?
I think I got like no canteen, like 2 weeks, no canteen.
Loss of privileges?
Yeah, certain privileges, not being able to go to the canteen or something,
Right. I see in 2022, you had 2 write-ups for contraband. What was the contraband?
I think if I remember correctly, I had some pills that I get KOP, which is a keep on person medication, and I took them out the pack, and I didn't know, like when they say when you take them out of the pack, it's considered contraband, and that's what if that's that's what I got up.
There were 2. I think there were 2. So that's what happened on both occasions.
I'm sorry.
There were 2 for contraband in 2022, I believe. So that's what happened on both occasions.
I'm not sure, ma'am. I'm not gonna sit here and.
You had pills was one, and 2 phones was the other, 2 cell phones.
Yeah, that was different, separate.
Was the other one in 2022.
Right.
3/18/2022, 2 cell phones.
Yeah, the 2 cell phones, I'm guilty. I was
11/9/2022 were the pills.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I got it.
I was
And
guilty.
then I see before that I'm concerned when I looked at your record earlier. Of course, some of this is back in 2011, but I see a lot of loss of good time, which is not reflected on your record. This period of incarceration, I guess, is showing 45 days loss of good time. I'm gonna sit back and just listen to my colleagues and see if they have any questions, and we'll see.
Hey, ma'am, can I say something right quick? A lot of what you were saying about earlier about the incident that happened with the female that died. A lot of stuff I don't remember quite like how everything went like with that, but you know, I'm being totally honest about what you know about that. So I mean, I don't know what I'm just really confused about a lot relating to that. But other than that, you know, I have no reason to lie. I mean, anything that's in the record or whatever. I mean, anything that I've done, you know, I have no problem accepting responsibility for what I've done, and I will tell you, I would say that, you know. So I mean, anything other than that, I'm confused about. You know?
All right, I understand. We're gonna move on.
Do you have a plan for when you get out? What you wish, where you goes for 5 years? What do you think you'd be doing 5 years from now if we would have let you out?
Well, I'm planning on as my daughter said, I'm gonna work with her for a while, but I plan on opening up my own restaurant. I've have a lot of experience in cooking, and I've acquired like some good information on grants that's going to be available for me when I'm released, and I'm very excited about it. And so that's my plan. I have everything laid out in hopes of being able to execute that, and that's my plan.
That's my only question. Thank you.
Mhm.
I just have a couple of things. On revocations, I see going back, you were revoked every time just about that you were put on probation for possession of heroin. You put out in 2001, and then in 2002, it was revoked. And then you had another supervised revoked in 2005. And then same thing, 2009. So you were given many chances on all drug charges, and you were revoked all those times. So that concerns me. That when you get out, you tend to go back to the same thing.
No, ma'am. Again, back then, before I came to prison, on this situation, I was like, again, I said, I was all over the place. I was just all about me. I was selfish. I've you know, had my probation and everything revoked because I was still in that state. I was still like just all about myself, selfish, foolish. You know, I just was all over the place, ma'am. I have no excuse for that. And that's
made a very good suggestion when he talked about attending victim impact class, because when you talk about the lady, you talk about the situation or the incident. Says here that, you know, they found her naked and dead, and that you had sex with her until she was unconscious that night, and that they knew you because the boyfriend said Walt, the local drug dealer. And then when you were in their car, that your statement was that you provided narcotics to Jennifer and having sex with her until she was unconscious on the night that she died. So she's more than just an incident. And that's what victims awareness teaches you about that. I mean, she's got a name, she had people that loved her. And of course, she was addicted to drugs, but you sold her drugs. You were known by her to sell her drugs. So due to the numerous revocations, and then that, I do believe that you need some more, another class in victims impact. I do think that. And that's my thought. That's all the thoughts I have.
Thank you. All right, Mr. Solomon, I think we're ready to vote, and I'm gonna be voting first because it was my case. And I'm gonna have to say I wholeheartedly agree with Warden Turner. I think you get in your own way. And I think you've done a little bit of that today. You know, I've already commended you on your GED, and I'm glad you're on the waiting list for Ashland. But I do agree with Warden Turner. I think you got a little more work to do. I think you have, when Mr. Barra asked you about where you want to be, you never mentioned the prospect of working with the event planning, and that seems like something that's all laid out for you and would be a good opportunity for you. I think you got some more work to do. Definitely the victim impact training. I think thinking for change would be a benefit to you. I'm not ready to do it today. My vote today is going to be to deny, because I think you need some more work to do. When you do those programs that's recommended by the warden and you reapply, you probably have a different outcome. My vote today is to deny for those reasons. Good luck to you, Mr. Barra.
I'm gonna concur with Ms. Renata. I think you're doing pretty good over there, just not well enough. And the fact that you only served 15 years off of a 50-year sentence, it's not even a third of the sentence yet. So a little more time, a little more programs, and I think you'll have a different outcome too. Get back there and get back to work on, like you said, the victims awareness, the drug dealer anonymous, you know, and get some more of that training under your belt, and don't have no more violations of write-ups. And I think you'll have a better outcome too.
Ms. Stapleton?
But today I'm gonna go with her.
I vote to deny, and I concur with both of my colleagues. Everything they said was right on point as far as I'm concerned.
All right, so we've laid out a plan for you, Mr. Solomon. You work that plan, you work Ward Turner's plan, and come back to us. We'll look
Thank you
forward
for
to
the-
seeing you again. Good
Thank you.
luck.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, good morning, Mr. Taylor. Would you introduce yourself? Tell us your name and DOC number.
Louis Taylor, 541088.
Yes, sir, Mr. Taylor. My name is Cheryl Renatza. Seated to my left is Mr. Danny Byron, and to my right is Mrs. Carolyn Stapleton. Let me acknowledge the folks you have there with you. You have Tashawn Taylor, your son, Ayana Taylor, your daughter, and Trevine Allen, son, who are with you there. And then we have Andre Taylor, your nephew, who is on Zoom. We have Mary Taylor, your sister, who's on Zoom. She will not be speaking. Otherwise, I'd ask her to pull over because I see that she's in her car. She's just listening in support. So, Mr. Taylor, let me read some identifying information into the record. After I ask you to verify that information. After that, we want to hear from you. We want you to take a few minutes to tell us why you think we should vote to grant you parole today. When you're done, we'll hear from the warden, and your nephew's indicated he wants to speak on your behalf. We'll hear from him, and then we'll begin our parole interview. Okay, ready? All right. Mr. Taylor, you're classified as a first felony offender. You're currently serving 25-year sentence with parole eligibility. Your parole eligibility date is or was October 27, 2023, when the governor signed your commutation of sentence, making you parole eligible after serving 16 years. You have a mandatory release date, which is a good time date, dated August 16, 2027. Is that information correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Right. Mr. Taylor, take a minute and tell us, a few minutes, and tell us why you think we should vote to grant you parole.
Well, first of all, I'd like to thank the board for giving me the opportunity to speak for y'all. I want to say how much I'm sorry for what happened to David that day. I feel like I had done enough to make myself eligibility. I took all the classes I needed. I worked on my attitude. I did everything I was supposed to do to make myself a model citizen, to go back into society. I ain't had a write-up in 10 years. I just been keeping my head down, doing the work I'm supposed to do. I just been making sure I don't get myself in trouble. I feel like the board gave me an opportunity to go home. I could be a best citizen in society. I gotta do, make sure I never come back. I can make sure my kids don't follow my footsteps. My nephew, I just been asking for one opportunity to show everybody I'm remorseful I did, and give me a second chance in society and go back out there and prove everybody I'm not the same person that came in here. I'm sorry for what happened to Dave, like I said. I'm really hurt for what happened to him and his family. I'm sorry for putting them through that. I'm sorry for putting my family through that. I'm sorry for putting the state through all that I did. I'm just sorry. I could take it back if I would, I could. I'm sorry it ever happened, it ever got to that point. I wish it never would have happened. I'm just gonna go out there and take care of my family, my 2 grandsons I got. I just wanna do the right thing by society. Show everybody I'm a better person, live by the society rules they set in front of me, and do what I have to do to make sure I'll never come back.
All right. All right. Thank you, sir. Warden, anything you want to say about Mr. Taylor?
Yes, Mr. Ronaldo. He's completed some programs. He is a level 1 trustee. He works at agriculture department at Ag in Baton Rouge. We got him in, I think it was 2021, brought him in here to be a trustee. He's earned his GED since he's been incarcerated, and we haven't had any issues with him since he's been here.
Thank you, sir. All right, we'll hear from Andre Taylor, your nephew. Sir, we'd like to hear from you.
Good morning, board. Good morning, Wharton. How you doing, Uncle Taylor? I just wanted to speak on his behalf as this long journey of 17 years of incarceration, the effect that it had on our family. It was definitely devastating. He seemed remorseful for what happened to the victim, and he definitely apologized and learned from his mistakes over this time. It was just very hard on us as well, as when one person is incarcerated, he's not the only one doing that time. The family do the time. His kids did that time with him. He had to see his kids grow up and become young adults from behind that wall and over a phone. So it would be extremely blessed and heartfelt if he have the opportunity to make it up to him, make it up to society, make it up to his family for the mistakes he made, and be remorseful for the actions that he took when he was not in his right mind, apparently, and just younger. And it probably take time for somebody to mature and to see the wrong they did and the right they could do with the right opportunity. So a second chance we're so grateful to him, his kids, and his family.
Yes, sir. Thank you for sharing that information with us.
All right, thank you for getting me on board.
Mr. Barra will be taking the lead on the parole interview. Your case has been assigned to him. Please answer his questions.
All right, Mr. Taylor, I got a question for you. Can you tell me about the day that Nathaniel Davis got beat? What happened? What was your part in it? And why did y'all pick him to beat up that day? What was going on? Tell me all about that day. I want to know the facts.
Well, I wasn't at the scene when it happened.
I want to know the facts from your perspective. I've seen the police report. I know what the police say. I want to see what you had to say.
When it first happened, when everything first started, I was not at the scene when it first happened. I had to just pull up and go over there. That's when my co-defender started hitting him and punching him. I thought they had gotten into it, so that was when I proceeded to jump into it. And we started beating him and hitting him and stuff. We tied him up, and my co-defender and I took part of shooting him several times in the body.
You shot him or the co-defendant shot him?
My co-defender shot him.
Okay.
I never shot him. I can't hear you, sir.
You helped to tie him up?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And then what? That's it?
No, we just continued beating him, and we're trying to get some answers out of him. We're trying to see what happened to my cousin who shot my cousin, because he was with him when he got shot. And we're just trying to get some answers out of him, and stuff just started escalating from there between him and Craig Smith and another young man that was on the scene with us. And they shot him some more in some kind of way. He lived and he escaped and he survived. And everybody just started running their own separate way.
So it was all about finding out who was involved with shooting your cousin?
Yes, sir. And supposed to went that far on my part.
Right.
Craig Smith just took it a little further because he wasn't getting what he wanted to hear. And I'm sorry I was there in the first place.
Right. Where you plan on living if we would let you go?
I was going to Dallas, but they told me I have to stay down here in Louisiana. So I got my team on me to stay in the house in West Weagle.
So you're not planning on living in Dallas anymore?
Yes, sir. But they told me I had to stay down here first. I was going to Dallas with my sister because she have her own house and have her own company. I was going to start working with her at her company.
How do we know that you're a changed man? You said you changed and you're not the same guy you used to be. We hear that a lot. In your case, how do we know that that's for real? You know, can you tell us anything about when it happened, how it happened? What made you decide? Was it the first year you were in jail, the second, the last? What, you know, how long ago it happened, and what happened to you to make you realize you needed to do something different?
I started getting old and I started looking at stuff around me. I started looking at society as a whole. I started looking at my kids behind me. I started looking at my family. I started taking reality with what I did to get me here. I had to become a man and realize what I did was not the proper thing to do. This is my first time ever been in jail. So I had to just come to my reality and take acceptance for what I did and start changing my attitude and have a positive attitude and just do what I gotta do to make myself a better person for my kids and myself and society.
Since I am the lead guy in the case, I'm gonna go ahead and put a couple of more details in the record that the victim in this case at the clemency time was opposed to you getting the clemency. However, now we can't locate him, so there's no comment at this particular point. From law enforcement, we have mixed opposition, some no comment, some opposed due to violent crimes. You're low risk and the sentence was actually commuted on 10/27/23 to parole eligibility after 16 years due to favorable recommendation from the warden, programs you completed, and the low risk score. And that's all the questions, facts I want to bring up.
Okay, thank you. Need a second?
Just got one more to add to the circumstances at the time. It says here that while the man was tied up, and bound with duct tape and dragged to an abandoned house, that y'all set the house on fire.
No, ma'am, the house should be still standing right now. The house should be still standing. It's never set on fire. It's an abandoned gutted house. That's it.
Okay.
Nothing happened to the house.
It's in the report, so yeah, I just wanted to ask about that. That was my only question.
I think the statement in the rest of that story is they left to get gas to set it on fire. And that's when he escaped to the middle of the street. Is that correct?
That's not really what happened. We never left. We was in the backyard. And he just ran out the front door. We never went nowhere. He just put that in the report, the detective. We never left off the scene.
Nobody ever get any gas or anything like that?
No, sir. They never found no gas, never found us going nowhere. Nothing. We never went nowhere. We was in the backyard of the same house. We was in the backyard where the whole incident started at. We was back there.
After thinking about it a little more, what were y'all plans for him? What were y'all gonna do with him had he not escaped? Had y'all thought about that?
No, sir. My plan was to let him go. That's all I thought we were gonna do.
All right.
Well, if you're gonna let him go, you shot 3 times. Was there a possibility that somebody thought they were shooting him to the point that he was gonna die? I would have thought.
Yes, ma'am. I had stopped him from shooting. Like I said, I never pulled the trigger.
Yeah, you were just.
I was just there at the wrong place, wrong time. I had told him it wasn't supposed to go like this.
Okay. Okay, that's it for me.
All right, Mr. Taylor, the panel prepared to vote.
I'll ask for executive session.
We have a motion for executive session. Could you call the roll, please?
Sarah Renassa,
Yes.
Danny Barras,
Yes.
Carolyn Saint.
Yes.
All right, Mr. Taylor, we're going to be in executive session for a few moments to discuss confidential matters. Stand by, we'll be right back. All right, we are back in regular session. It's 11:36. We're prepared to vote. Mr. Barrow will be voting first.
All right, Mr. Taylor, what you did was obviously a serious crime. But I think you take responsibility for what you did. I think you gave us pretty much the truth about what happened. Looking at your record, you are a true first offender, which we don't see very many of those, where this is actually your first real felony that you ever get convicted of. So I'm gonna vote to grant you parole today, based on the fact that you are a true first felony offender, that you've taken responsibility for your crime, that you've done well while you're doing your time in there, and let you know that we recommend that you go to live with your sister in Texas, away from all of this stuff you were doing down here. Because I got a feeling you didn't just fall into that. I kind of got a feeling that there was a little vendetta. Y'all were doing your own vigilante justice for you, who was probably killed. You know, I could go on about what I can think about right there, but there's a little bit more to that story than we know about. So a change of scenery would probably do you good. So we are going to add a special condition that you apply to Texas for the through ICOTS, through the local office. And then if you're not accepted by ICOTS, that let us know, and we'll see what we'll do about that then. Just get the probation officer to talk to us about it.
Yes, sir.
I will vote to grant you parole today.
Mrs. Stapleton.
I will vote to grant you parole today, and I concur with my board member.
Mr. Taylor, I sat on your pardon board hearing. I voted to grant you then. I'm going to vote to grant you today. I do agree with Mr. Barra. I think Texas is the best option for you. So your release will be conditioned upon approval of that out-of-state plan. You understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
So that's a little bit of time, but the folks there at DCI can help you accomplish that. We'll try to help it on our end as well. So today, Mr. Taylor, your parole's been granted. We're going to work on the interstate compact to Texas. Good luck to you.
Thank you.
Okay, we got records in here now, Ms. Renata, and we're gonna get started on that with him today.
All right, great. Thank you, Warden Turner. All right, Warden Turner, that concludes our business at your facility. Thanks for accommodating us. Sign off at 11:38.
Thank you, ma'am. Congratulations.
Yes, sir.